Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of our Porsche front panel replacement segment. So what we're doing on this video is we're going to look at how to put in our second piece and how it relates to everything going on around it. See, we've got our gas tank mocked up in here. This really is our main concern when we put our second layer on here. I've already pre-drilled and fitted this piece in here. But none of this fit. The bottom pan didn't fit worth a darn, and this one was really off by quite a bit. The profiles didn't match, length didn't match correctly, and contours not exactly where you'd want them. However, you can make all that work out. I've got a cold chisel down here. Let me grab this guy. This is a cold chisel I use. Rounded off the end a little bit. What you can do is you can go ahead and cinch your part down where you want it to go, and then take your cold chisel and just pound in these areas, drive them in, and work the tool around to draw it up. We're actually about a ½ inch short from reaching this side with this part, but you can see now it's all pounded back into shape. It's going to work out fine. So on this gas tank, the problem I ran into is we want to get it sitting on 4 corners. We don't want to have it rocking. I'm trying to get the camera back in to see where it's sitting in the back edge. So there's a couple of welds back there that back flange sits on. You got one on the left there. Go around to the right side. And we got one on the right side. Get that down in there. I don't know if we can get it. Pretty dark in there. Okay, there it is. So there's a couple of welds left and right that flange is going to kind of just rest on. Even though we're going to put a gasket underneath it, that's really our good starting point there. And then we want to make sure that when it's setting back there, which is the truest part of the frame here, that when we come up front, that it's not rocking left or right. So we want to make sure it's sitting dead flat on the pan, and then we also don't want it hanging up on anything. You can see right here by my battery tray that I'm got a little bit of clearance in there, but I actually had to bend and roll that edge out of the way because it was hitting. That's probably something you might have to do, is bend some of these edges and get them rolled out of the way. Another problem, once I've got this tank support where I wanted it, I play around a couple, 2-3 times to get it there. But once you get it where you want it, doesn't necessarily mean your factory hole that they stamp and put in here for you is going to line up with your hold down bracket. So if I put this guy back on here, right where it needs to be, you can see now I can get a bolt down in there, but in its factory trim, wasn't going to make it off center and too far forward, so we would be pushing the gas tank back in the car and driving it up on that shelf, and we don't really want to do that. So I'm going to have to weld a new nut on the bottom, fill that in, and that should take care of that. Just go around here and show you how we got it tucked in here. So right now it's looking okay. We're a little close on our battery tray, but that's where they had set it on the piece, so we don't have much choice on that. And we got everything else welded up. Kind of a rough stage. So once we got the inside where we like it, then we want to go underneath and check, make sure all the clearances on the bottom side are going to work out. Go on the bottom here and take a look at that. Okay, so you can see I got my control arms wrapped up with aluminum foil. What I'm trying to do there is just keep any welding splatter off these things while I'm going around it with a welder. There's a lot of welds to put this together. But what you're looking for is you're just looking for clearance all the way around the tank and make sure you have plenty of space, front, back, left and right, as it's sitting down in there in a nice flat position. Also, it wouldn't hurt to put a few extra welds on your pull ring and your front areas where they bolt up. A couple extra tacks in there, and also where your bolts bolt in. And then up in here, you can see our edges all welded back off. Using some lab metal on there to try and tune those up. Tell you what I think about that here in a minute. Got a couple products I want to show you today. Well, we're welded back in there, and also the piece that we put in there, it was hanging down probably anywhere from 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, and not really in the ballpark as far as contour. So I just tacked it all off, put it where it needed to go, and then took a grinder and reshaped it. And then also on the front here, I had to cut some out, a little front end damage here. I had to pound back out and try and get back into shape. And making a patch now, and then we'll tune that hole up, weld that guy in there. I actually welded up pretty nice, nice and tight. Get a few tacks on there, and then you can start pounding it with a hammer to really roll it in nice and tight. So we're just rough right now. Okay, so let me get this gas tank pulled out of here, and then I'll pull this top layer off and take a look down inside and show you what's going on inside there. Okay, this is its final resting spot here. This is what it should look like on this back edge. You want to make sure you're resting on that edge. That was mainly my problem, is really for the gas tank where I wanted it, this thing was pulled forward almost another 1/2 inch. So I had to sneak that gas tank farther back so that this second layer can rest on my lower pan. So that's why I had to kind of stretch everything, make it work. But we're in there. It'll look real clean when we get it all done. Also, those are those welds I was showing you. You can see the mark where it's rubbing on there a little bit. It's resting on that weld, resting on that weld. This is all going to have a gasket under it, which will get it up off the welds. But it's a good spot to dial it in from. And then also our joints here, our profiles on the edges didn't match up at all, not even close. But probably have to, and you may, depending on what pan parts you buy or where you get them from, they may or may not match better. If they don't match, you can just fill it up with some weld and then kind of shape it with a grinder. Also, a lot of heat going into this. You really want to go slow. It takes several hours to weld that bottom off just because there's so much heat. Put a little weld in there, move to the other side, almost like torquing down a head on a car. Let it cool off. And while you're doing it, you definitely want to keep everything bolted in there from the bottom side. All your control arms and cross member, keep that bolted in there so things don't start stretching and moving around. Okay, let me unscrew this and I'll show you what's going on inside this part. Okay, you can see there I've made an extra bracket to bridge that reinforcement strap. I'm going to weld all that in, just tighten that whole area up there. A lot of the metal was eaten away with the battery acid there. I've also made one for this side. And we'll weld that guy off and tighten things up a bit. Honestly, you probably don't need those if you have some metal lift in this area. By the time I weld everything off, this thing's going to be so strong and no problem at all. I just think it never hurts to have an extra weld in there rather than one less. Okay, so once I have this all welded off, I'm going to go ahead and coat it with a coat of POR 15, just so we have good seal in there. And once that dries, do my final welding. And then we'll have to mock up for our washer bottle bracket, and then also weld this guy in here for our washer motor. And that should do it. So let me get those things done, and then we'll take a look at the final product. Okay, we've got everything welded off. I've got everything completely mocked up in here now, as it will bolt down in a finished position, making sure everything draws up nice and tight and sitting flat in the final resting area. Got my back clamp in there, that's fully drawn down, and then also resting up on our welds and a little bit of clearance in that shelf area back there, which is good. And then we have our other clamp, hold down clamp. And I almost overlooked the battery. Took for granted that because it was welded in there that it was going to work out. So when I was mocking up my water bottle, I thought better get the battery tray and just double check, make sure everything's going to work out there. And it's a good thing I did, because it wasn't going to. Let's take a look at that. So what had happened, they had already set up the position for this tray. You can see where I had to drill the old spot welds out. You can see where it used to rest. And had to drill the spot welds out and fit this in a right and proper position to the tank and to the water bottle, to have right clearance, and then also make sure that the bins will actually fit your tray. And it didn't fit the tray either. You can see now I've drilled some new holes in it and welded some weld nuts on the bottom, so now we can bolt it down properly. And then also, see under here on the edge there, you want to make sure that it fits the profile of your tray, so that it's not too short. So in its factory position, that wasn't even close. Now you can actually get these pans and buy that part separately. And if I had to do this again, I probably would get the battery tray separate from the tank support. That way you can position it exactly where you need it. And then we got our water bottle guy in there, and washer motor bracket. So from here I'm going to tune these welds up, make it look clean, look the pan over for any dents, anything I don't like, and then clean it up and move on to some undercoating. Thank goodness all this rough work is finally out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to take you in the shop, show you a couple products I want to talk about. One of them I really recommend. Let's go in the shop and have a look at those. Alright, the first item I want to show you is this black seam sealer. This is made by Sim. And this works really good for all the seams underneath your dashboard, in your smuggler's box. This would be great for if you have any pinholes or slight pitting in some metal inside the car you just want to cover up. This would be perfect for that. It's really strong, very pliable, and super elastic. This is, I can't say enough about the strength of this product. You just need to play with it and see what its range is, but I can think of a million things you can do with this other than seam sealer. So if you need some good seam sealer, I recommend this right here. Second thing I've tried, I saw this on Jay Leno's Garage. I thought, well, that looks interesting. Let me give it a try. This is lab metal, about $25 a can for a small can. And I thought, well, maybe I can tune up some welds with it, or maybe fill in some pitting and just see versus like a two-part plastic body filler. Take the lid off here a second. Alright, so you can see it's kind of a nice silvery material. It almost acts like a wood putty in its properties to put it on. You just put it on with a putty knife. It likes to go on really thin. It doesn't like to have a lot of build with it. But outside of just maybe cleaning up a few micro lines and maybe smoothing out some welds, I really don't know what else I would use it for or even trust it for. Single component, never really going to harden up super hard. So if anybody's got any experience with this and knows a better purpose for it, maybe you can make a comment in our comment section and just let us know what you think. Other than that, I don't know that I would recommend this. So I'm just getting ready to do some painting here this morning. I'm going to finish up some POR work. Got all our components all sandblasted. A little paint work, a little POR, and then move on to our undercoating. Okay, well, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.